Right. So, okay, this next one, I am going to really take a back seat. And I see you're wearing the Street Epistemology shirt, which is dope. So this will be the call where you use SE. We'll clip this
Oh,
and
I'm
send
so
it to
bad at
Anthony
this.
so he can see how it's done. So we've got
I'm so bad at this.
no, you're gonna be awesome. We've got Mary Ellen, who says that she had an alien encounter. Hi, Mary Ellen. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
All right.
The story that I'd like to start, it starts in about 1988, and my family lived on a piece of land that was out by the National Forest up in northern Wisconsin towards Lake Superior. There was only one small, very, very small airport in the area. This is a conglomeration of different stories. This is all coming together and to prove my point.
Okay.
Or what I assume is my point. We were a mile away from the nearest electrical lines. So we had kerosene lanterns and solar panels and that kind of thing, back before people even thought about it. And we didn't have any yard lights, anything like that. The only thing we had was strictly inside the house, which was pretty much a cabin. There was a night that the kids had called us from upstairs. We went over to see what they were looking at. There was a picture window on the side of the house. And it appeared that approximately maybe 150 feet into the woods at night, this huge spotlight. It appeared like a huge spotlight going straight up, like the kind you see at the casinos. And the kids were scared, and of course, being the adults, my husband and I were trying to downplay it, that it's probably nothing, it's probably nothing. We went downstairs, and both of us were freaked out. We were scared, and we decided not to go and investigate it. Got up the next morning, and my son, who was about 10 years old at the time, had come up to me, and he was scared. He was putting his arms on me and says, "Mom, the little men came in and they wanted me to go with them. But I told them I couldn't." And they said then, okay, that was okay then. I didn't have to go. And I thought, what? And, like anybody else, I'm thinking, well, this kid probably had nightmares or whatever about the light. And I just let it go. I just didn't think much of it. His brother was slept in the same room with him. It was about 2.5. And he didn't act any different at all. It just so happened that very next night, it happened again. And we calmed the kids down. We went downstairs and talked about it. And I really wanted to go out there. I was ready to go out and see what this was. But, of course, that country up there, they have bears, wolves, whatever. And I didn't really want to go out there myself. And my husband was not going to go out there, refused to go. So we didn't go. Next morning, we were headed down the road about 5 miles. And all of a sudden, there were all these military vehicles. There was a helicopter in the field. There were men in uniform. And we were thinking, what the heck happened? Because we don't see this stuff in that part of the country. It's mostly lumberjacks and small dairy farms. We don't see that kind of activity. Okay. So we stopped the truck and talked to someone. They said someone saw a UFO. And that's why they were there. They were trying to find evidence and gather whatever. So we went right home. Mm-hmm. We went right home and went out into the woods where that spot was at, where we saw that light. This is daylight now. We went out there. And there was a circle about maybe 20 feet, perfect circle in the middle of the woods. There were no trees in that spot. And the grass was all singed and burned all around the whole edge. And even the trees around that area were all singed, like something was very hot that was there.
So, Mary Ellen, you said that they were looking for aliens, right? Did they find any aliens? I'm curious about your story.
Yeah, I'm wondering if when you went to the forest and saw the circle, if you took all the military folks with you.
No, we didn't, because we didn't know that we would find that. We just thought, let's go home and look, because we didn't go at night. Let's go check it out. So we went back there. We did tell some neighbors after the military were gone, you know, if we got to start talking about it, we told them what we found. But here's the deal. My youngest boy, who is 2, and now is a full-grown man, has been visited several times. And he describes what they look like, and he describes the occasions that it happened to him. He'll wake up on the couch with cold feet, like he's been out running in the snow, and he's got his wife's jacket on, and she's like a size 5, and he's a hefty dude. He's like 6'3", and they can't figure out how in the world he got this jacket on. And he was scared. He was scared. He's telling me this, you know, that he finally was started to talk about it, how it's been happening to him. He's been,
and
you know, he has actually seen them.
Right. And Mary Ellen, I believe that your son has had an experience, but for me to believe that that experience is in fact aliens or UFOs, I would need a little bit more in terms of evidence, right? So maybe,
Yeah.
so maybe how can we test what he had said? I think that's my biggest thing here. I want to be able to test it, and if we can test what he said, and the test comes back in favor of aliens, then that might be more of a reason to consider it, right? Is he still being visited by these aliens?
It's like talking about Bigfoot. How do you give you evidence? I mean, people have been trying to collect hair and evidence of Bigfoot for how long? All I have is several incidences, putting them together, and then having my son come back later and tell me he is still having issues. That's all I have. That's all the evidence I have.
I guess what I'm wondering is, you've had a set of experiences. I'm wondering what conclusion you've drawn from these experiences. If you could summarize it in like one sentence as being like, this is what I believe, what that would sound like.
I believe that we were visited by extraterrestrials, and I believe they're following my son. For what reason and what purpose, I do not know.
So what would be, and I'm only asking it in this way because the show is short, you know, we only have about 15 minutes to talk to people, is what would be the very, very strongest indicator that extraterrestrials have that you've encountered them or that they've visited you?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding your question.
I'm just asking, like, you know, what would be, if I was just asking for one really, really strong piece of the puzzle here, whatever you think most strongly points to extraterrestrials being the cause of your experiences, what would that be?
The incident of the light. The whole family saw the light in the woods. We are not near any electrical power lines. We're not near any street lights. We're a mile away from the power grid. And this light was like those huge spotlights you see at a casino. Huge, shooting up into the sky. All of us, all 5 children and my husband and I saw this light.
So maybe, do you think it's more likely that it was an alien or an extraterrestrial, or that it was... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I have no explanation for what it was, because there's no tire tracks. There's no way that thing could have got in there and left. And with the burnt leaves and the burnt grass, I have no clue.
Right.
My logical mind cannot come up with a logical explanation.
So yeah, so now it's, how do we get from I have no idea how to explain what I saw to extraterrestrials are the explanation for what I saw? How do we bridge that gap?
Well, my son told me that he said that the small men came in and wanted him to go with them.
This was, you're saying the next day, right? This is back in 88?
Yeah.
How old, I gotta ask, how old was your son at
This
the
is
time?
back in 80, about 10.
So, Mary Ellen, I want to go back to the thing you said before, which is I have no idea what it is, right? I have no idea what it is
Yes.
either, right? And now we're both on the same level of I have no idea what it is. Now, you said he was visited by small men the next day, and so you decided extraterrestrials. I say he was visited by small men the next day, therefore, I don't know, demons. Like, you see how we jumped to two different conclusions that have like no evidence for each one? They're both kind of tenuous. You accepted one and not the other. Why did you accept this one and
And you
not
were
the
saying that you thought it was, I'm sorry, what did you say you thought maybe they were?
I'm just giving a hypothetical. I don't actually believe it was demons.
Yeah, what
but,
Ameet's
like,
doing is he's showing how there could be multiple candidate explanations.
Yeah.
Going, how do we rule things out?
And-
Like I used to be
Well,
in the army.
when I'm talking about going down the road and stopping because we saw all these military people there and asking someone on the road why they were there,
Yeah.
and they said because a UFO was spotted,
Sure.
and that wasn't very far from our place at all. So I mean,
Sure.
that's another added,
So-
someone else had actually seen it besides us.
I'll tell you this. So I used to be in the military. I was in the army. And like, what if, and I'm not saying this is what happened, what if the military was doing something in the woods where they were shining a bright light, and the next day when you were out there, some smart aleck private thought it would be funny to tell you that there were UFOs? How do we rule
Well,
that
like
out?
I said, it was behind our house. There was no road going there. There were no tire tracks. I don't know how it got there. If they brought something in, I don't know. It was larger than a handheld flashlight. This was a huge light, about 20 feet across, light was shining straight up in the air.
I believe you, but how do we rule out a helicopter or a hot air balloon or any number of?
We would have heard it. We would have heard a helicopter. There was no noise out there. And as far as a hot air balloon, I don't think so. Not in the middle of the national forest. It would have been too dangerous.
Right, but what I'm
And
saying
I don't
is,
know how the light would have got there.
what I'm trying to get you to do is to sort of recognize where a gap in our knowledge is an attractive place for us to start putting things in there as explanations without really doing the work of making sure our explanations are legit.
Well, no, there's more to the story. This
Okay.
happened about a year later. We were standing out in the yard. I had a friend that was there, my husband, me, and a friend. And it was during that time of the evening when the moon is out and the sun is just going down. And I looked up and I saw what appeared to be two moons in the sky. And I grabbed my friend, grabbed my husband, and I said, "Look at this." And we saw, literally all of us, two moons in the sky. One on one side of the sky, one on the other side of the sky. There were a lot of weird things happened up there. A lot of strange things happened up there. A lot of unexplained things.
You said
And
unexplained?
it was a lot of unexplainable things. because
I was
they were
about to
just
be
so
so
bizarre.
proud of you. I don't know if you heard the earlier call, but there was a gentleman who was talking about Bigfoot and was saying that there's unexplainable things. And I sort of picked a fight with him about this, of saying there's a huge distinction between unexplained and unexplainable. And I thought you'd said unexplained, and I was going to be so proud of you, because I don't know how we could demonstrate that something's unexplainable. I think it's more accurate for us to stick with unexplained. But,
Unexplained. Right.
you know,
Right. And,
So,
there was also, when I was pregnant with that boy, I would see these orbs floating around, and they'd be floating in and out of the house, and I would see them, and they would be orange colored, yellow colored, white colored. So, I mean, I can't give you any explanation. I've never experienced anything outside of that area. I live in Florida now. I have never seen them here, but only up there in that region.
so
It makes me
again,
think about that place that's out west, that's a Skywalker Ranch, with all these strange things going on. It
Skinwalker
kind of
Ranch.
makes me think of that.
Skinwalker Ranch. Skywalker Ranch is a different place. But yeah, Micheal, you mentioned a couple of different incidents. How do you know that those incidents are kind of tied together? How do you know that they're connected to the same thing?
I don't for sure, but like I said, the unexplained, it's not normal to see two moons in the sky. We all saw it.
It's not.
And
But
then
I
it was
did.
confusing.
But I did just Google it, and it is possible to see two moons in the sky, just like you can sometimes see water on land. It's a type of mirage caused by the refraction of light. So it is possible.
There are places where you can go and see two sunrises happening at the same time too.
Okay.
Um,
Well, now that my adult son, he's an adult now. He was in Colorado, and he said he was in his tent, and he said there was a bright light over his tent. So he got out to look, and it was so bright he couldn't see it. The next thing he knew, he was back in his tent, and there were a couple of beings that were around him, and he said they looked like Anubis. They had the head of a dog on them.
Have you
And
ever
they were
seen
doing
these?
it.
Have you ever seen these creatures?
I have never seen them. Only he has seen them.
So has anyone else in your family ever seen these creatures?
I don't know of anybody else who's seen it, but he has always had strange things happening to him. It's like the phenomenon had followed him.
So, and
I wonder what effect, if someone grew up and their mom was seeing, orbs of light coming in and out of the house and stuff. I don't know if this was stuff you talked about around your kids. I wonder about the effects of like priming.
No, I never did. Okay. I never talked about it around the children because I didn't want to scare them.
That's probably good.
I talked about it with my husband. We discussed it.
Here's so
like I said, I've lived in Indiana, I've lived in Florida. I've never seen those things anywhere else. Only in that one place.
So I generally don't like giving callers homework, but we're running up against time, and I have another caller I want to make sure we get to. There's something that has come to mind that was coined by I believe it was coined by Matt Dillahunty, called it's called Doyle's fallacy. And basically, are you familiar with the Sherlock Holmes stories? Or like the character Sherlock Holmes, and the idea is that he's the greatest detective in the world, and the whole method that Sherlock Holmes uses in the novels by Arthur Conan Doyle is that once he's eliminated all of the possibilities, whatever's left over, no matter how crazy it might sound, is going to be the truth, and that's how he solves the mysteries. But the problem is, you can never know that you've eliminated all of the possibilities. There's right. No way of knowing that you've eliminated all of the candidate explanations to arrive at the truth. And that's not how we arrive at truth. You don't get there by ruling out all other possibilities. So what I would urge you to do is look up this thing of Doyle's fallacy, and maybe think about whether it applies to how you formed your extraterrestrial belief. And and call the show back. Because this is interesting stuff. But I would be very interested in hearing what your thoughts were after spending, an hour thinking about this Doyle's fallacy stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. But thank you so much for
I'll do
calling.
that.
Thank
Yeah.
you, man.
Okay.
Have a good night and stay safe out there.
Yeah.